Ay. Pati kulungan naman pa sa mga dyan lungan ko lalo. Umpa naka-chocolate. Welcome to the Global Sunday Show. Pati poo. Welcome if you are tuning in on Facebook. Welcome if you're on YouTube. Welcome if you're on Diverse TV. Welcome if you are on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, obviously you're only seeing me, which there's nothing wrong about that. But if you want to see the entire show, including Mr. Laden today, go on YouTube, go to Diverse TV, or go to our Facebook page, which is the Global Sunday Show. But also, there is a YouTube, a Facebook page called Diverse Global TV. You can also find that show over there, and it looks nicer than this. The show, not me. I think I look nice. Yeah, welcome to another Sunday. It's gonna be fantastic. We're gonna give you the latest news, latest global news, and as always, you are going to be learning a new IsiZulu word. It's gonna be fantastic. With that said, maybe let me introduce Mr. Laden and welcome him on the show. Mr. Laden, welcome to the Global Sunday Show.
Welcome. Now I got the memo that said royal blue. I only had cobalt and phthalo blue today, so I will have to go get a royal blue blazer so we
I,
can.
I think the blue that you have, I think it's fantastic. It's just that mine is a little bit loud. You know, I like bright colors.
Yeah, it kind of goes with you all around. You're sort of matched set.
How are you doing today? It's another Sunday. It's another Global Sunday um show. So how do you feel today? How's your Sunday? Or how was your week?
Well, the week has actually been good. Eh, a lot of things you work on them over time.
Hmm.
And after a while, they start to happen, but you have to sort of wait, until it's sort of until the bread rises, you can't bake it, that kind of thing. And
Right.
so this week has been a week of a lot of things that were put in motion a long time ago
Hmm.
are starting to come about. And that's very, very satisfying, of course. And also, if you see, that's not flowers growing out of the top of my head. That
Same here.
so we had a wonderful little event here last night, and somebody brought flowers, and I think that's wonderful. So I'll
Whoa.
special thank you to the bringer of the flowers, but you can remain anonymous so you don't get global exposure and fame here on the Global Sunday.
That's fantastic. I love flowers. There is a lady named Nicole.
Okay.
She used to be a director of Dancing for the Stars when it was really interesting and fun and exciting. And the first time she met me, she gave me flowers. The second time she met me, she gave me flowers. I was like, oh yeah, now I know. Every time I see you, I get flowers. She's amazing. Shout out to Nicole. Yeah, I like flowers. I like flowers. It's just that I need to learn how to maintain them.
Mm,
Sometimes I put a lot of water, sometimes I put less. So I don't know which one is which. I believe in like getting some sort of like a container where I can put water like in a container, and then the flower can decide whenever it needs water, it can absorb from that water. But I don't know how that works. I would really like to understand how it works. But
Well,
unfortunately, I don't know.
when you have cut flowers in a vase or any kind of container,
Hmm.
what happens is that their bacteria, the flower it's an organism and it has bacteria, and when the bacteria are in the water and the water gets to room temperature,
Mm.
don't heat up or cool down the water in your flowers. It's just room temperature. That bacteria grows, and what it does is starts to break down the cells of the stem, and that then makes it so they can't absorb the water and take them up to keep what's up above the petals and all of that looking fresh. If you put one aspirin, not Tylenol, not ibuprofen, not fentanyl, not any, just one aspirin
Yeah.
in the water, that the acid in the aspirin will keep the bacteria at bay, and your flowers will last for weeks instead of just a couple of days.
Oh, wait. So, oh, wait. So it's supposed to last for like weeks?
They can.
Wait, isn't it supposed to be like lasting forever? Like how
Well,
flowers and trees do?
if they're round, yes, but once you cut the flower, now you have a dead flower
Oh,
because it's no longer connected to its roots. So if you want to keep them fresh in your house, if you put an aspirin in about every other day, you put another aspirin in the water,
mm-hmm.
just one, and then the flowers will keep fresh and hydrated for much longer. And then if they do get bad, you just cut an inch off of the bottom of the stem because again, that's that broken down tissue of the flower stem.
So how long are they supposed to okay, how long are they supposed to last? So when you go out, you buy flowers somewhere and you bring them in the house, how long should you expect them to last?
So if you just put them in water and sit them there, maybe 3 or 4 days.
Oh, okay. So well, I'm silly then. I was
Right.
hoping so whenever I get flowers, I'm hoping that I can keep them forever.
Okay, well, there is a way to preserve them, and that is you don't put them in the water, hang them upside down so that the flowers at the bottom, hang them like from your curtain rod or something,
Uh-huh.
like in the bathroom or somewhere. You hang them upside down
Mm-hmm.
and put some thread. You tie the thread around and thread around something up above,
Mm-hmm.
and then they will dry and they will keep their beauty and their shape. And then you go to the art supply store and you get a spray matte finish that is for like charcoal drawings and pastel drawings. And you spray all around that, and then that protects it from the outside. And then those flowers will retain exactly the way they look there. If I do that, they'll be, and then once they're like that, then you put them back in it. You don't need water, and then they last for years.
Oh, really? So do they still smell the same way, or the smell goes away? Because obviously, if there's like an external cover,
The
then
smell
it's no
goes,
longer. They do? Did you say they do?
the smell goes away.
Oh, okay. All right.
The
Hmm.
smell is part of the moisture in the flower. That's what makes the perfume. And so once there's no moisture in the flower, but you can retain the look of it, and there's some really good floral scents,
Mm-hmm.
really smell like roses and really smell like, whatever kind of flower it is,
Right.
or whatever. And you can spray that smell on them. I mean, they're basically, if somebody hands you cut flowers, they're handing you dead flowers.
Well, I'm glad to know. I'm glad that I asked about this because I think sometimes I do overthink things, and every time I get flowers, I'm expecting the flowers to last forever, and if anything happens within like days or weeks, I'm like, oh my god, something is not right, something is right, and I start like throwing in water and start moving it around and doing stuff. I didn't know. I thought it's supposed to last like as long as as possible, like months and you know.
Yeah, I know. And like the cats, I thought they're going to be kittens forever. And my kids, I thought they're going to be those cute babies. And then, they get older and then they get problems and then they need showers because they smell bad. They forget to change their clothes. And what are we
I
talking?
get it. I get it. I get it. Well, I'm looking at it as like a tree, or so outside the house we have a flower plant, if I may say. So sometimes it doesn't die completely. It
Yeah.
loses it flowers, and then it comes back again during what is the season? It depends
Well,
what
the
season.
lilac tree is basically May.
Right.
The we have beautiful prickly pear cactus, and they get this beautiful yellow bloom that then turns into a bright red, almost like a tomato.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the pear.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, I think we probably have 30 or 40 different varieties of flowers that grow in our yard outside of the house.
Mm-hmm.
One has its own time. I think you're talking about the lilac one right by the porch door, right? That has that beautiful
Yeah, the pink one. I think pink or red. Yeah, very beautiful
yeah.
flower tree. So yeah. Oh, well, all right, that's fine. That's fantastic. I'm happy to know. I'm glad to know. I didn't know. I'm glad I asked. Okay, shall we take a short break and then we find out what's going on in the news?
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right. You are watching the Global Sunday Show with Lungani. We're gonna take a short break and then when we come back, we're gonna go to the news with Mr. Lennon. Cheers. Diverse Global Studios, Africa #1.
Ready. Welcome to the Global Sunday World News. Today is February 25th, 2024. Reporting for TGSN, I'm Mr. Ludden. We begin our coverage of world news in the United States today. With American democracy being threatened by Donald Trump and his cult of followers, who now call themselves extreme MAGA, the world is watching with bated breath. The assault on women's reproductive rights, over 400 legislative attempts to deny voting rights to millions of Americans, threats of violence against court staff in the many trials of Donald Trump, denying of transgender and LGBTQ rights, as well as an outright attack on education in America, have made all world democracies wary of what is to come. Donald Trump this past week is now facing a total of court fees and fines that amount to $600 million. From his response to this, it is clear he does not have the funds to pay these fines, making it a very real possibility that his real estate holdings may be seized by the courts. Also this week, it was revealed that the evidence against President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, came from a Russian spy working in America as a whistleblower for the FBI undercover, delivering false information that has been now traced to the Russian intelligence operation of misinformation to overthrow the West. And as the world watches and waits, the outcome of the US election in November becomes more and more critical. We will continue to report on these developing stories as they develop. A medical doctor who completed his medical training in the Ukraine is sharing his experience of working in two different war zones, both in the Ukraine and in Gaza. Dr. Masa Abdul Halik, a resident in a hospital in Gaza, serving in the emergency room there, is sharing his story. Having completed his training in the Ukraine in 2023, he served nearly a full year at Ukrainian hospitals. He reports, at the beginning of the war with Russia, the situation was dire, with casualties on a massive scale. With time, though, it became less intense. But the situation in Gaza is totally different. From day one of this war to this hour, the Israeli occupation forces are wreaking havoc and destruction on Palestinians. He goes on to say, we are flooded with dead bodies and critically wounded people. I was working on October 7th and have been on duty ever since. We are still receiving critical cases at the same intensity and the same pace. Survival odds for the victims here in Gaza are really scant, close to zero, especially amid a shortage of staff and lack of medical equipment and supplies. Here in Gaza, doctors are forced to make hard decisions, to choose between who to treat and who lives and dies. If I receive 2 cases, the doctor says, a victim with 70% burns on his body and one with minor injuries, I would tend to the second, as the first will go into sepsis and die. There is a huge difference between the war in Ukraine and that in Gaza, be it in terms of the resources and medical supplies or hospitals' capacity. In Ukraine, he says, world-class facilities were well equipped and medical supplies are in abundance. Here in Gaza, we use one single device or even a medical tool on many victims. This no doubt causes further complications, including infections, especially in cases of injuries with open wounds. In the Ukraine, he reports, we worked at ease with everything in abundance from the staff to the resources. In Ukraine, I never came across a single case where doctors were forced to perform a procedure on a patient without anesthetics. Here in Gaza, I attended to a 12-year-old child. I performed 25 stitches on his head without anesthetic or even a painkiller. It took me almost 2.5 hours. These situations are beyond description. The boy is in pain, and I'm hoping to perfect the stitches. I hardly held my tears. This comparison between 2 different war-torn countries brings into focus the fact that not all wars are the same, but that all victims of war go through unimaginable difficulties. Now we turn to Africa. The West African Economic Regional Bloc, called ECOWAS, has made a declaration that it has lifted sanctions on the Republic of Niger. These sanctions were imposed on the Republic in the wake of a coup there on July 26 last year. There was a total blockade of Niger from land, air, and sea. Borders were closed and travel bans and restrictions were placed on the military leadership there, as well as members of their families. Electricity was cut off there, and financial transactions to and from Niger have been blocked. They were suspended from all regional organizations, including financial institutions in the region. The financial assets of the military leadership have been frozen in the entire region in banks, and they were cut off from all engagement in the region. All of these sanctions have now been lifted. In return, the Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS, states demanded the immediate release of former President Mohamed Bazoum, who had been deposed in the coup last July when they took power. They also demanded a specific timetable on returning the country to democracy. In addition, they lifted some of the sanctions from Guinea and some of the sanctions imposed on them. The declaration also allows citizens of Mali to be employed again in ECOWAS states and institutions. Their final demand on member countries of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger was for reforms with an agreeable timetable for them to return to being democracies. And now on to Kiev. 2 full years have now passed since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And with the conflict still raging, no one expected the Ukrainians to last this long. A summit was held yesterday in Kiev to examine the situation. Analysts, when asked who the winners and losers are so far in this conflict, gave the answer. The answer is China, the big winner. Russia has sold half of its petroleum products, oil, and energy to China, and China gets a Russia that is weaker and obliged to Beijing. This gives China the upper hand in negotiations, forcing Russia to sell them things that Russia was unwilling to sell them before. It gives the Chinese more access to the Arctic bases that Russia controls, as well as giving them the ability to negotiate for high-level technology, silent submarine engines, and advanced missile technology. Meanwhile, with the Trump-Putin alliance now bringing the American Republican political party into obedience for Putin's wishes, aid to the Ukraine has stalled. This at a critical phase of the war. Russia is taking advantage of the fact that Ukraine lacks ammunition and other supplies that the US and European allies have so far provided, making strategic advances once more in the Ukraine. President Biden's stalwart loyalty to Ukraine, NATO, and world democracies, driving his determination to continue providing funds. His initiative has been blocked, though, by Republican lawmakers who, on orders from Donald Trump, have tied Ukraine aid to border issues in the US, creating an impasse in Congress. This has been a huge disappointment to Ukraine, and there are reports of Ukrainian soldiers closely following US politics because this money is desperately needed. This has a direct impact in Ukraine, but also a trickle-down effect into other areas of foreign policy. For example, a US congressional delegation visiting Taiwan this last week had been quizzed about this. The Taiwanese are worried that if the general US policy is compromised, they fear the US will not come to their aid if China invades Taiwan. Also, recent high-profile visits from European Union leaders to Kiev have been so far unsuccessful in filling the gap created by the sudden interruption of US military aid. At the summit, a larger question is being considered. Do the US and European allies really want the Ukraine to win? The actual invasion with Ukraine is 10 years old, not just 2. It began in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. Europe and the United States have had plenty of time to prepare themselves to truly come to the aid of Ukraine. These recent days, and the very fact of unpreparedness of NATO members to step up, thus far in a timely manner, leaves open the question of the actual prevailing policy toward Russian aggression in Europe. And now on to the commentary. In spite of all of this, we're still humans. Love makes the world go round. In the Hungarian language, as I've reported here on the Global Sunday several times, in that language, there are 47 different verbs that mean I love you. There is the one between young lovers, of course, but also between true friends. There is the love between generations, the love of an educator for a student. There are other classifications of love, like true love, enduring love, eternal love, divine love, even blind love. But today, I want to talk about the only kind of love that will last the test of time, will bring joy no matter what. The standard Western world marriage vows contain words to the effect of, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, until death do us part. The kind of love I'm talking about today is what these vows are referencing: unconditional love. Unconditional love is love without any condition. This is a love that does not change, is not challenged, and will not end because of behavior, social status, financial success or failure, or even a bad mood. So, how can you love someone so much that if they do something horrible to you, you still love them? Well, I say it depends on what you love about that person. If you love the essence of that person's very being, who they are, not what they do, the nature of the person, the very idea of them, the thing or things that make that person unique, their very identity. If that's what you love, then you will be fascinated and thrilled as they develop, grow, and, watch out, change. It means that if they become frustrated, angry, unemployed, ill, injured, no matter what, they are still the same essence of a being, perhaps going through something they themselves do not understand and certainly did not sign up for. If you love someone without condition, if they become crippled and will spend their life in a wheelchair, you help them adjust. You be there for them. If they become blind, you stand by them as they try to cope with that horrible change. Unconditional love is transformational, not transactional. It is not some sort of swap. You do this and I'll love you. Now that you proved your love for me, I'll love you. If you give me an expensive enough gift, I'll love you more. Transactional relationships are basically what the commerce of prostitution is based on. It is a business. Unconditional love is not based on something you get, something the other person achieves, or some developmental shift that will suddenly meet your requirements. Unconditional love, and I'm talking about all 47 types of love being unconditional, is forever love. And if you are able to be kind, humble, compassionate, and caring enough to achieve unconditional love, then you will have eternal happiness. Because one must also unconditionally love life itself and unconditionally love yourself. I'm Ken Ludden. Thank you for watching TGSN, and now we return to our program.
Global Studios, Africa #1.
Well, I can't wait for Valentine's month to end. I'm joking. Unconditional love. That's really amazing. I love that. I love that. I was just sitting here and listening, and I'm kind of like being educated as always. But I think that's fantastic, and I really like how you always end the news with you call it a commentary,
Yeah.
but it's some sort of like a motivation for me. And I think also how I look at it as a motivation to the people, because the news, you'll never know exactly what you're gonna find in the news. There's always like surprises and crazy things, unbelievable things, and stressful things. But having that at the end as some sort of like something that lifts people's spirits and faith, I think it's great. I like it.
Well, I hope I did, but there might be some people out there that are making somebody pay for their love that I just called them a prostitute, and I love you unconditionally, whoever you are, even if that's how you do love. Yeah, there's all kinds of tangos, but no, we have a short time for the news, and
Right.
I research, and there are hundreds of stories. The
Mm,
reason we don't cover the United States that much is because all the news covers the United States all the time. I look for the stories in parts of the world that don't get covered. This is the global Sunday,
right.
not the American view of what's global Sunday.
Mm,
And so I try to choose stories that aren't going to be, people aren't going to be aware of them, because just thinking about the people in Niger and Mali, some military bigwigs went and overthrew a government, and now none of those citizens can have jobs. You know, and that the movement toward democracy allows those citizens to have jobs. I think that's a really important story. Everything that happens in the world happens to everybody. But about the news commentary, you know, old age is what happens is when you're lucky and smart. And so I've grown to understand things. Now, when I was in my teens and 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and even 60s, I made every mistake everybody out there is making, but I learned from them. My dad told me there's no black marks in life for making a mistake. But if you make a mistake and don't remember it and don't learn from it and repeat it, that's when you get really bad consequences. Because not are you showing that you're not going to change, but also then you're getting a reputation and people can say, oh, that guy always lies when it's about money or whatever it is. So I try to take in my 70s realizations and share them to the younger people so that you know that they're there, maybe just in the back of your mind, because life can be pretty awesome. But you gotta get over your big bad self a little bit, not be such a big ego to have a really awesome life.
Wow. Wow, that's that. I would love to talk about that when we come back from Learning IsiZulu. Especially the mistake part of it, you know, because I think um you know, they say no one is perfect. I don't even know why the word, okay, I know why the word perfect was created, but um I don't know. I don't think there is anything that is perfect. So
Well,
probably all of us will make mistakes. I think maybe it would be nice to talk about how does one recover from making mistakes. And I know I've interviewed a lot of people here that went through a lot of different things and they shared different stories. I think maybe we can touch on that a little bit when we come back and talk about mistakes, making mistakes, and and just put into it put some ideas into it so that you know whoever's watching at home, also if you're watching at home and you want to be part of this conversation, please we're going to learn this is, and then when we come back we're going to talk about making mistakes. And if you want to participate, please drop comments below, let us know, and join in. I think it's going to be fantastic. All right, with that said, let's go to Learn Zulu. Then when we come back, we will talk some more, and then that will be the end of the show. All right, we'll be
good.
right back. A
All
couple of
right.
seconds. It's the Global Sunday Show with Lungani.
Diverse Global Studios, Africa #1.
Hey, welcome to Learn Zulu with Lungani on the Global Sunday Show. Okay, quickly, let's catch up. Let's see. Let me see if I can still remember what we learned previously. Yeah, this is where we learn isiZulu. We learn a couple of words, like important words, that you might need if you happen to travel to South Africa, or if you happen to meet someone who is South African and you want to engage with them. You know, these words will really, really help you. Just also to remind you that isiZulu is one of like the most popular languages in Africa, and it is very connected to almost all the languages that you find in Africa. So if you learn isiZulu, you are very close to learning other languages as well. So let's catch up. Let's look at what we learned previously. Our first lesson was Sawubona, which means hello in English, and how you pronounce it, Sawubona. As you can see, that nice little lady over there in the corner trying to explain to you. So yeah, this is how you pronounce it. Sawubona. I'll give you a second to have a look at it or write it down or whatever that you need to do. Sawubona means hello, and you can say it doesn't matter if it's in the morning, it's in the afternoon, or in the evening. It doesn't matter as long as you seeing that person for the first time in that day. you can say sawubona, okay? All right, and then our next lesson was unjani, okay? Unjani. So you just said sawubona to this person, right? Because you learn this word from the Global Sunday Show. You see this person, you see this South African person, whether you're in South Africa or whether you're in America, and you meet this person and you say sawubona, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I got it right. Okay, what happens next? Well, you can say unjani, which means how are you? And how you spell it correctly or how you pronounce it correctly is unjani, right? And remember to drop it on the comment below. Just try to type it, it helps. It makes you remember it in the future if you want to use it. Yeah, unjani means how are you, and it's just there's no further explanation. Unjani, how are you? Okay? And that was our second lesson. Our third lesson was ngiyaphila, in which almost all the time when I try to find ngiyaphila, I always have trouble. I always have trouble when I find ngiyaphila. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Ngiyaphila. Boom! Ngiyaphila. I don't. Oh my god! I can't understand why. Each and every time I try to do a lesson about ngiyaphila, it just vanishes. But anyways, yeah, our third lesson was ngiyaphila, which means I'm fine. Ngiyaphila also means I am alive. Means I'm fine and I am alive. Okay, how you say it? Ngiyaphila, like I always say, just like how you peel an apple, not an apple, but an orange. How you peel an orange or a banana, whatever. Ngiyaphila, as you can see that lovely lady over there teaching you how to say it. So that you don't sound stupid, like you're trying to force something that you can pronounce. Okay, and then the fourth one was kuluma, which this one I always say is supposed to be the first one because kuluma means speak, and here we are speaking IsiZulu, which is great. And how you spell it, kuluma, or how you pronounce it, kuluma, like ma, doesn't matter. Okay, and then the fifth one, because we're in the month of love, it was utando, which means love. How you say it? Utando, like a door, but you add an N so that it's on the throat. I see. Mwangi, I say Mwangi. Kuluma. Mwangi, you are missing H. So your kuluma should have H. I see Mwangi say kuluma. Okay. Wow. That's interesting to say. Yeah. Okay. So utando means love. Of course, if you're saying it to a person, it's gonna be different. If you want to know how you say it to a person, you want to impress somebody and you want to say it to them, inbox me or DM me. I'll let you know how you say it. Yeah, it's different when you're saying it to a person. Okay, and then the sixth one was umuhle, which means you are beautiful. I like it how short the other one is, and the other one's like 3 different words. It's so amazing. And how you say it, umuhle. Okay, a lot of people will struggle with this, but I did say if you want to learn how to really articulate this, just inbox me or DM me. I'll send you a voice note so you can be able to learn how to do it. Umuhle means you are beautiful. Okay, you can go to a person and say, "Hey, umuhle." They'll just smile if they know what it means. Okay. All right, and then today's word is Mr. Lightning's favorite word. La. I chose this one because I'm lazy today. And it's a very easy one. It's easy to explain. Lala, Lala, it means sleep. Lala, la, just like how you sing. La 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 la. So lala means sleep. So if somebody's tired, you can just say lala. Sleep. Go to sleep. That's it. That's how simple it is. I didn't want to explain so much. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna choose this one, but not because of that only, but because also it's Mr. Aladdin's favorite word. So I know the first thing that's gonna happen, I'm gonna make him welcome everybody back so he can say, okay, la, because I know he likes this word. So, yeah, so that's it for today. This is the Global Sunday Show, and this is Learn IsiZulu with Lungani. So if you want to know more, don't hesitate to inbox me. Now let's go back to our show and have a little talk. And if you want to join in, please join in. I'm gonna take a short break, and then we're gonna go back to our program. Yes. Lala.
Diverse Global Studios, Africa #1.
Welcome back to the Global Sunday. And to be honest with you, the reason that I like the word Lala is because it was easy to remember. Of all of the Zulu I first learned from my sons, Lala was easy, and also, they were young and they needed to go to sleep. But but anyway, no, it's wonderful to be this language. As we said before, when you learn a language, you learn a whole new way of thinking about life and being in life. It's great. But you were wanting to
Yeah.
talk about mistakes and perfect and imperfect. So just a little history of the word. A
I think
mistake
sorry.
is,
I think
yeah.
I think I think there should be like a segment that we say, okay, let's talk, welcome to Let's Talk, Yeah, like a Let's Talk segment where we like you really like take our emotions aside and we like talk about really serious stuff and bring somebody who hates the world and who wants to just express themselves and like punch the walls and vent and say whatever they want to say. I think that would be fantastic. Anyways,
Langani,
I'm done.
do you need a hug? You're talking about mistakes. You're talking about anger. Are you okay?
No, I'm inspired by Let's Talk. That's all. I'm fine. I'm inspired by Let's Talk. I'll keep quiet. It's fine. Yeah.
No, no, no. I love you unconditionally.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you mentioned well, I'm not the one who came up with the idea of the mistake and everything, but I thought it was interesting that you talked about that, and especially when you went in length about it. So I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe let's talk about it before we close the show." And probably share some positive expressions to the people who are watching at home, because I believe we all make mistakes. I believe. I don't know. I might be. I know I'm perfect. I don't make mistakes, but I I believe a lot of us, yeah, a lot of us in this world, we make mistakes. But then, where do we go from there? How do we recover from those mistakes? And sometimes we find ourselves in situations where it's not our mistake, but we are in that situation. You know, as much as it might be seemed or called unfair, but you're in the situation. You know, what do you do from there?
Well, I think first it's very, very helpful, as always, just like with the Zulu, to know the origins of the words and how they come about. The word mistake is from Old English. It's a fairly new word. It's only been around a couple thousand years. And it means to take something in error. Like you pick up the wrong keys and you go to get in your car and you can't get in. Well, you made a mistake. You took it in error. And
Mm,
that's what the word means. It means to take something in error. That could be to take an action in error, to have an opinion, to take that opinion and enforce it on somebody in error, to to take your definition of life that's maybe good for you, and then to force that on another person, that's taken in error. That's a different person. It may not, you're not in charge of them. So mistake just means to take an error. Now, perfect means completed. So something that's imperfect, it's just not done. It's not completed, not yet. And I think it's really important to understand those things. And I want to point out something about the art of the Middle East and the East, but in particular the Middle East. And think about the terrain there. It's mostly desert. It's
yeah.
very harsh terrain. And there is a huge, huge reliance on the divine. And I will just call it the divine. I don't want to get into names and religions and all that.
Right.
But you're in a very, very arid, lifeless place. There's no water. There's no plants. The animals that are there are venomous creatures. You can't eat them, but you got to kill them first. Um, you have to rely on the divine. You have to always see beyond the horizon. to something that you can go to. As a result, art in that area, like say a Persian rug, okay, that's all this incredible, intricate, symmetrical design. If the artist who makes the rug, or the craftsman who makes the rug, makes it perfectly, then that's considered a blaspheme against God, because only God can complete everything. And so they leave one flaw. So anytime you see those beautiful mandalas, or a wall hanging, or a plate of inlaid wood that is from the Middle East, look, you will find there is something intentionally left unfinished. It's very important to understand that we are works in progress.
Right.
Are always imperfect. We're not completed yet. Okay.
So does that mean? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
As you talking, I'm like thinking of something which might be like, it might sound crazy, but does that mean that I I just listened to you and I heard you saying, as human beings we are work in progress. We are incomplete. So does that mean when we die then we are complete?
Well, that's a theological,
Right.
philosophical
Sounds interesting.
question. There are many different takes on that. I think that that's a very big topic, but I think that we should just probably stick to when we're here, alive in this world. If we want to get to the of what do you do when you have made a mistake, what do you do when something is imperfect?
Right.
But you know, that's a huge topic.
Oh, okay. I understand. So sorry to make it, a little bit deeper. But yeah, I think that's very interesting, and I now understand. I mean, English is kind of like my third language, and some of the words, it's really interesting. Some of the words in English is very complicated. I'll be honest. It's a very, it's not easy but simple um language to learn, but
Well,
then it's
English
very
is a French
complicated.
language. It's a Frankenstein monster of language. It is Latin. It is Greek. It is the Romance languages. It's Germanic. It is also constantly changing, because the English language does not have a associated langue like in France, where there's a committee that decides this is French. That's a new word. That's not allowed. That's not French. In English, the words we say the most end up being the words we use. So the language is not
Right.
just all of those five bases, it's constant change and influence. So it is frighteningly complex, and also English is not my first language. French is my first language,
Right.
and learning English, I did it as a child, but still, you learn all these rules, and then every word you can think of is an exception to the rule. It's like it's really frustrating to me still. And I'm an author. I write in English, and I do the news, and I write the script, and it's all in English. And it's still very frustrating to try to get it right. But that's
Right.
why I look up about words and what they actually mean,
Right.
then compare it to what is meant by them. But we won't get into that. So your question was, if you've made a mistake,
Yeah. What
you've
happens?
done.
And I think maybe, oh no, go for it. Go for it. It's fine. I'm not gonna interrupt. Go for it. Yeah. Yeah. No. 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 No.
Tiger can't change its spots, stripes, whatever tigers have. You're from Africa. What do they have?
They have something called zebra, but
Uh,
yeah. When
anyway, so if you've made a mistake, which we will make, if you have taken something in error, a stance, an action, an object, the first thing you do is you forgive yourself. The very first thing you have to do is forgive yourself. You made a mistake. It happens. But then you need to own the mistake. You need to say, I had no right to impose my beliefs on you. I had no right to take what you said and use it against you. It was taken in error. You have to admit your error. But making an apology doesn't solve anything. Words are cheap. And if you're a good actor, you can say anything and make somebody believe it.
Right.
The only thing that really makes an amend to mend the situation if you've done something in error is to change your behavior. That's the only thing that really, you can apologize all you want, but you have to act differently.
Yeah.
Friendship, love, all those things are based on trust. And if you cannot be trusted,
And
then you can't have any of those things.
I have a question. I'll just one question, and then we can wrap up the show. Um, Mistakes. Okay, we're still on mistakes, and then let's say maybe it's a mistake that doesn't have anything to do. You constantly like looking into yourself and blaming yourself for that mistake, and um, I understand the fact that first you need to you need to accept and forgive yourself, right? And I'm translating this to a person who is, I'm not talking about two different people. Someone made a mistake and treated somebody else badly. Somebody who made a mistake, whatever mistake it is in their own life, right? And they are angry at themselves, or they are blaming themselves for that mistake. How do you how do you move forward as that person? How do you move forward? How do you deal with that? How do you have that conversation with yourself that, okay, yeah, I made a mistake, I'm gonna accept that I made a mistake. And how do you get to a point where you're not blaming yourself for that mistake, and you accept and move on and take action, as you say? Because what
Okay,
you're saying, yeah, please go for it. Yeah.
we are imperfect. We are incomplete. We're always changing. So forgiving yourself is something you will do imperfectly because it will come back up again. You won't have really completed it. But what you need to do is you need to understand, like for instance, I have a lot of children. I want my children to know that I'm trusting them. And so I give them information, but there's certain kinds of information that they're not ready to hear yet
Mhm.
in life. There are certain things that if you give them that information, even though it's the truth, it would be cruel. And so you have to find that line between giving everything you can give that isn't going to harm the person to know it, and being transparent and giving them the knowledge they need.
Yeah.
Now, I've made a lot of mistakes with you kids in my life. And what I do is, when I do beat myself up, when I do kick myself and say, oh, I'm so stupid to do that, I try as hard as I can not to share that dialogue with myself with the person. I fail at that. I am imperfect. Okay. Because of the intensity. When you feel really badly, you really feel it intensely. And it's when somebody you absolutely love and would lay down your life for, you can't believe that you could do something that would harm them. So I'm taking this to an extreme example, because everything that's less than that is a little easier. So you have to forgive yourself. But then, with my kids, in terms of punishment, what I did with the kids is that when something happens, I sit down and I talk to them without anger, And I say, okay, what are all of the consequences that have happened because that thing did happen? How did it impact the people you know? How did it impact the people that you don't know? How does it impact your reputation? How does it impact, all of those things? And then after that, I say, okay, so what consequence would be strong enough that the next time this comes up, you'll remember and stop? Now, I have been told by my children that is the most abusive, terrorist tactic a parent could ever take.
Uh,
Is there something you'd like to say, son?
no, no, no. No, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Having some memory bubbles. Anyway, but the thing is, we are imperfect
Right.
and we do constantly make mistakes. I mean, I personally have a policy to make at least 10 mistakes a day before I start counting.
Wait, sorry?
I said I have a policy to make at least 10 mistakes a day before I start counting. It's a joke.
Ooh.
No.
No, I have it on my note. I already have it on my notes, so.
No. But if you've made a mistake, one thing, okay, there is a